Attention, attention. All crew, come to bridge.
Coalition warship Delta 3-4, channel 167.
This is an audio recording of a Houthi attack in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait.
Vessel Carabas Harmony, this is Coalition warship on channel 16, over.
The strait is a narrow passageway leading into the Red Sea. Nearly 100 attacks have been recorded since November 2023 on this critical route. At least 2 vessels have been sunk and 4 seafarers killed.
I rushed to the bridge. I go fast. Everybody was scared. Everybody was screaming like drone, drone, missile, missile, drone, drone, missile, missile. I was scared. I sat down. I was literally like on my knees. It was horrible.
The armed attacks in the waters have forced shipping companies to respond.
The effect on the seafarers is horrific because they are seafarers, they're not soldiers.
About 80 to almost 90% of the goods that we consume, whether it's fuel or it's hard goods or automobiles, are shipped around the world on a vessel.
As many as 1 million people work on the high seas as seafarers. So why is violence still on the rise on the high seas?
There has been, according to the World Bank, more than $400 million paid in ransom for getting hijacked vessel back from pirate.
The ongoing wave of violence directed at sailors in the Red Sea began in November 2023. The Houthis behind the attacks are members of an Iran-aligned group that controls much of Yemen. They claim the attacks are an expression of solidarity with the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza.
في البحر الأحمر وبالذات في باب المندب وما يحاذي المياه الإقليمية اليمنية عيوننا مفتوحة للرصد الدائم والبحث عن أي سفينة إسرائيلية.
The Houthis have deployed sophisticated drones as well as ballistic missiles and are considered a terrorist group by many countries, including the US. In November 2023, Houthi militants launched this helicopter attack on a commercial vessel. It led to the hijacking of the ship with 25 crew members taken hostage. They are still being held. Over the next month, international shipping companies, including Maersk, said they would suspend transits through the Red Sea. On March 6, 2024, the attacks turned deadly when a Barbados-flagged bulk carrier was hit. Despite rescue efforts by the Indian Navy, 3 crew members were killed. Houthi militants later claimed responsibility for the strikes. Since then, the scale of aggression has only escalated further. In June 2024, Houthis deployed boats packed with explosives to take out the Tutor, a Greek-owned vessel. 1 Filipino sailor was killed in the attack. Footage circulating on social media shows armed guards unable to do more than watch as attackers approach. The violence has prompted foreign nations, led by the US, to send in armed convoys. Today, shipping companies are attempting to mitigate Red Sea risks by sailing around the Cape of Good Hope off southern Africa. But the detour drives up the price of goods and delays shipments. It also increases the likelihood of ships sailing into other troubled waters off the coast of Somalia and East Africa.
Economically, it's a nightmare, but at the same time, the folks, especially around the Gulf of Guinea, around Nigeria and those areas, the piracy incidents are likely to increase far more than they presently are at the moment. That's piracy for economic reasons, not political.
To better understand the risks facing sailors on the high seas, it is important to also look at maritime geography.
Where you have wealth, you tend to attract crimes.
The Houthi attacks in the Middle East, supposedly motivated by political grievances, are in some ways an exception from broader trends. Maritime threats exist not just in the Middle East, but also in several other critical areas around the world, including in East Asia.
We tend to forget that geography is still extremely important.
Driven by poverty and economic opportunism, pirates tend to target maritime passageways that are hard for operators to sail around. That's because the vessels have few other options if they hope to avoid extreme delays or unreasonable costs.
In the world, there are 7 important maritime choke point area, very narrow, when the global trade is passing.
In Asia, 2 of the most prominent choke points are the Strait of Malacca and the Singapore Strait.
The economies around Southeast Asia, they are thriving, but there are pockets of, underdevelopment or undevelopment, for example, which give rise to the root causes of piracy.
The attacks here have been brought under some degree of control because of increased cooperation among navies and coast guards of the countries bordering the affected areas. Shipping companies also carefully monitor other choke points in case challenges emerge. One such area in Asia is the South China Sea. As much as 20% of the world's maritime shipping passes through these waters, and the trade it carries is crucial to many of the economic powerhouses in East Asia. Much of it is also disputed territory. Trying to assert their sovereignty, China, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam have occupied islands and shoals in the South China Sea over the past 6 decades. For now, the impact of the disputes has been felt primarily by fishing vessels. The resurgent threat of piracy also has global shipping operators increasing their reliance on a once controversial tool: private security guards. They are often ex-military and carry weapons as they are deployed on civilian or commercial shipping vessels. When armed private security guards started to be sent to sea in the early 2000s, the practice raised some eyebrows. Today, it is commonplace and even extends to the deployment of floating armories at sea.
Technically, what is a floating armory? It's just a vessel that is mostly docked at high sea, and it's used to avoid the restriction on carry firearms on board when commercial vessels approach national water. Meaning that when this vessel cross international water, there is a possibility to carry weapon and security guard on board, moving them from a floating armory on board to the vessel.
There are no reliable figures on the number of deaths that happen annually at sea, although more than 100 states have now ratified a maritime convention that aims to improve transparency. According to Lloyd's list, the number of incidents resulting in deaths at sea is rising, with an average of 35 events per year between 2013 and 2017. The total number of deaths is even higher, with over 200 recorded in 2022. The numbers likely underrepresent true figures.
Why this we innocent sailors are targeting? Why? We don't know anything, but why we are targeting?